Hi everyone, and welcome to my Stoney Through Brothers in Arms, Hell's Highway. Before we get started, I'm going to take a good rip off of my new bong. This thing is so smooth. You can see pictures of it up on my Twitter, @GamerGuy1991.
Two birthdays. What if you die before the third one?
I'm smoking some of this excellent bubblegum kush, and it's just really nice. Great sativa. Now, for those of you who haven't played this, this is the third entry in the excellent Brothers in Arms series, which is, in my opinion, one of the best World War II franchises out there, mainly because it's not only a great shooter franchise from its gameplay mechanics, it's a great franchise because it really focuses on excellent storytelling and some realism that you really don't see in a lot of World War II games, but more importantly, excellent characters. And that is something that I think is really lacking from most military-themed games. You just don't have great characters, but you really have them in Brothers in Arms. Sergeant Baker is a really interesting character. He's a great lead hero, and while there are a lot of cliches in this series, they definitely tackle things very differently than you would expect from something like Call of Duty or Medal of Honor. And I think that's what always has drawn people to this series. It's certainly what's always drawn me to this series. And I really liked the psychological tale that they told in Hell's Highway. I don't think this game was what people were expecting in terms of the gameplay mechanics, but I got this game back when it came out, and I loved it. I got it on the Xbox 360, and I played through it so many times. I just was such a huge fan of this game. And I was wanting to replay it for some time, so I decided to get it on my new computer, and it looks flat out outstanding. I'm so glad I chose to pick this game up again for my laptop instead of playing it on the Xbox One through backwards compatibility, because I'm sure even though it would look good on there, this just looks outstanding. And my editing software right now is unfortunately Windows Movie Maker, so of course you're not seeing the great visual quality that the game really is capable of, especially on my Alienware laptop. Yeah, name drop a little bit. I'm just proud of this baby. I've been playing games on it non-stop, and I can't stop gushing about how much I love my new laptop. It is just, it's incredible. If you're looking for a great gaming rig, I really recommend Alienware's laptops. I saw some negative reviews on Amazon, but, you know, I was just like, fuck it, it's Alienware. And I'm not disappointed, to say the least. The screen is beautiful. Everything about this computer is beautiful. But this game, if you're just looking at it, you know, as a pure first-person shooter, if you're not interested in gaming for, you know, a great narrative, this is still a really fun shooter. You do have a third-person cover mechanic, and then you also have some squad control mechanics, which, of course, have always been a big part of the Brothers in Arms franchise. You can control your guys, tell them to either follow you or pick locations and tell them where to go, or to suppress or attack enemies. And they're really useful. They're very helpful to get through the game. And I really like that, unlike many other tactical shooters out there, there's always been something about Brothers in Arms that made me feel like I was leading my team, that I was actually in a war environment leading a squad of my fellow Brothers in Arms. I couldn't have worked that in a more haphazardly hammy way, but, you know, I always felt like I was really commanding a team, like I was really leading a team. Because they always say there's a difference between a leader and a boss. And I've always felt like a definitive leader in the Brothers in Arms games. And especially in Hell's Highway, I really liked how they did a lot of the mechanics in this game. I think that the cover system is really useful. I don't use it all the time just because I find that I'm a better aim in first person, especially with a mouse and keyboard. It's been so long since I played PC games that I forgot how precise playing with a mouse and keyboard is. and it's really awesome to be playing again with this setup, just because I haven't done it in so long. And now that I've finally gotten back into my groove after a couple of weeks of playing on here, I've really realized how good I am at aiming on this thing. And I'm just like, wow, this makes kind of a big difference, especially in this game, because I never really felt that the shooting mechanics on the console were that precise, but it's a whole other ballpark on the PC. I always felt that the shooting mechanics on the 360 were fine. I liked the shooting mechanics in the game because it's got a great sense of gritty realism when it comes to dismemberments from explosions, and heads will be blown apart with high caliber rifles. I just really love the attention to detail that Gearbox has always put in to this series, because it sets it apart from the rest. You know, this isn't your thrill-a-minute Call of Duty, let's run and guns blazing, run and gun everywhere, fast-paced action. This is a slower, more methodical game where you really have to come up with strategies to get through these encounters. And you'll notice that I'm playing this on the easier difficulty setting, because honestly, if you put this on normal or on hard, it becomes a very challenging game, even with the regenerating health mechanic that they put in. I know some people were sad that this game is a little bit more casual, a little more accessible than the original two Brothers in Arms games, but I enjoyed that, because while the first two games are fantastic titles, I love them. As a matter of fact, I have Road to Hell 30 installed on my laptop as we speak, and I've been playing through that as well. But I always enjoyed this game's mechanics just because I found the original Brothers in Arms games to be slightly frustrating, and while that's fine, and I really do appreciate the challenge of them, I like that Hell's Highway can be accessible on the easy setting. I like that it's not a frustrating experience 90% of the time. There's definitely a lot of challenge in this game, I would say even on the easier setting, but it also allows you to kind of find your own play style. I think this game just has a better difficulty setting and is better balanced than the original games, and I think that's something that a lot of people frown upon in the FPS genre. Something that I really, though, appreciate about accessibility in this game is that it didn't hurt the gameplay. They didn't change the way the Brothers in Arms series plays. While you have the addition of the cover mechanic, you control your squad mates, and everything else feels very similar to the original games. And I really like that. I appreciate that this game did not stray too far from the formula, but it really improved the storytelling aspects of the game. As a matter of fact, I think this is the best story in the entire series, and I really hope Gearbox comes and does... That was a really poor choice of words there. But I really hope they finish the series and the story, because unfortunately Brothers in Arms Hell's Highway does leave the door wide open for one more entry in the series, and the story isn't over yet. And I know there are a lot of people, myself included, who really want to see the story concluded, because it is a great story. You know, if you're a fan of shows like Band of Brothers, The Pacific, Saving Private Ryan, this is that in a game, and it is just an incredible experience. The level of detail in terms of the weapons, the level design, this is a great first-person shooter, and something that I've really been noticing about a lot of modern first-person shooters is they really don't have that kind of finesse when it comes to enemy placement, and just the way that the engagements are designed. I find that modern FPSs tend to be a bit lazy, and there are of course exceptions to this rule, but I find that a lot of first-person shooter games today tend to just think that great action is a lot of hectic things being thrown at the player all at once, and while that can be frenetic and intense and visceral and exciting in parts, I really miss when first-person shooters focused on giving the player interesting enemy encounters to fight through, and they weren't interesting because they were these fast-paced Michael Bay infused explosion fest, but they were interesting because the enemies took challenge, they took strategy to defeat, and you really had to think about what you were doing when you're playing the game. A lot of these new FPS games are just so mindless, it's just run through a gauntlet of set pieces. And Brothers in Arms Hell's Highway never feels like that. For me, I really love the realistic feeling of how these shootouts take place in this game. You know, you get behind cover, you try to flank your enemy. This is how tactical shootouts would take place in real life. You know, this is how warfare would have been like. To an extent, of course, it's still a video game, and it still has to be fun. But for me, this game, it manages to be a fun shooter, but it also manages to be a great tactical shooter as well. And then it throws in the fact that it's a great military story. This is a great war story. And it really treats war seriously, and it doesn't just try to tell a patriotic story of bravado, but there's actual depth to the characters. It's a really great narrative that's not just interesting because of the great action. You know, it's interesting because you really want to see what's happening to these characters. Even if you jump in just at Hell's Highway and you don't play the previous two games, these characters are so captivating and memorable that you're drawn in from the get-go. And the game starts off with previously on Brothers in Arms, so it pulls you up to speed. As a matter of fact, I hadn't finished either of the original games when I first played this one. It was only after I completed this and I was just begging for more that I went back and completed the original games, because when they first came out, I just wasn't good enough. You know, I died 10 times in one section. As you saw, I just died once, finally. And as I was recording this gameplay footage, I'm like, should I keep that in? Should I stop? What should I do? And I decided to keep it in to show you that, yeah, you are going to die in this game. And, you know, it's not just run and gun, sit behind cover, wait for your health to regen. There is high stakes to the combat. You can die relatively easily. You know, you can't withstand too many bullets. And especially on the higher difficulty settings, you'll die really quickly. Yes, you do see me standing out in cover, and I'm not really using the cover system too much. But again, I like that you can choose to play this game on the casual setting, and you can have an experience that you enjoy. I don't just enjoy the challenge of a game, I enjoy the cinematic nature of the story. I enjoy a game that really has a story that goes along with the action, so that these action sequences, it's not just about, oh, let's go through and kill these bad guys, but then also the challenge of overcoming, you know, some really cutthroat, bloodthirsty enemies. It's this challenge of, let's get my team through this, you know, we've got to clear this room, what enemy's behind that corner. It feels different for most shooters, and I really appreciate that. And here was my one big fuck up. You know, I haven't been used to playing on Steam too frequently, and I went to hit the tab button to try to cycle through my enemies, and I pulled that up. And that's happened once before, and it got me killed. Luckily, I recovered quickly from that mistake, but that was my bad and not anything on the game's part. This is just a really great first-person shooter, and I feel like it's incredibly underrated. For some reason, it was really trashed by a lot of the fans of the series, and I'm not entirely sure why, because it does not feel like the huge departure a lot of people that claimed it to be. And it's a very well-made game in a time where a lot of first-person shooters play exactly the same, and they're just not designed with that sense of finesse that you saw in a lot of past first-person shooters in the old school days. And I really miss that. And for me, Hell's Highway, it still has that kind of feeling. It still has that finesse, that precision, and it's one of the best designed first-person shooters, definitely of its generation, and definitely of the console period. You know, I think that this game should be far better remembered than it actually is, and I really hope that Gearbox hasn't forgotten this series, because I know they're really loving the success of Borderlands, and Borderlands is a great series. I enjoy Borderlands, but Brothers in Arms, for me, will always have a huge place in my heart. This is a very near and dear franchise to me because there are so few games like this. And that's something that I really like to see in video games. I like to see originality. I like to see a game that isn't like every other game on the market. And Brothers in Arms Hell's Highway certainly is unlike anything else on the market in terms of its story, its presentation. I mean, look at this game. This game is 10 years old, and it still looks phenomenal. The visuals are great. You know, this is a great game from top to bottom, and I can't say that enough. Literally, I've said this is a great game 30 times, and I'm sure you guys are getting sick of it. But just look at this is just one level out of a game, which, by the way, has a campaign that's actually lengthy. People complain about FPS games being really short now. This campaign will last you at least 8 hours on your first playthrough, and that's really good for most FPS games. But it's been a pleasure showing you guys Brothers in Arms Hell's Highway. I hope you guys have been smoking along, and I hope you guys have been getting high, enjoying your games, medicating, just feeling the good energy of enjoying a great gaming experience and getting totally wrapped and sucked up into it thanks to the magical powers of marijuana and cannabis that allow us to forget the negative aspects of our life and just focus on something enjoyable and great for a little bit, just to kind of unwind and to recharge our systems, because we all need to play a great game every now and again. We all need just to find something that just suits us. And for me, Brothers in Arms has always been a game that just felt right to me. You know, there is no game that is perfect for everyone, and I think the sooner that people realize that you just kind of have to find the games that are right for you, the better off gaming will all be. Thank you guys so much for watching. Visit my blog, megamediaoverload.blogspot.com, for more. And have a blast, folks. It's been a pleasure.